Just be mindful that the camera is there. You can go anywhere over there. The words of the 23rd Psalm, Psalm of David. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. Giving me repose in green meadows, leading me beside the still waters to revive my spirit. Guiding me on the right path, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through a valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. Now in Spanish, for the benefit of those tuning in who don't speak English. Salmo de David. El Señor es mi pastor, nada me falta. En verdes praderas me hace descansar. A las aguas tranquilas me conduce. Me da nuevas fuerzas y me lleva por caminos rectos, haciendo honor a su nombre. Aunque pase por el más oscuro de los valles, no temeré peligro alguno, porque tú, Señor, estás conmigo. Tu vara y tu bastón me inspiran confianza. Me has preparado un banquete ante los ojos de mis enemigos. Has vertido perfume en mi cabeza y has llenado mi copa a rebosar. Tu bondad y tu amor me acompañan a lo largo de mis días, y en tu casa, oh Señor, por siempre viviré. Palabras del Salmo 23. Thank you everyone for coming out, and thank you also all of you for tuning in this afternoon. Bienvenidos a todos los que se han conectado a través de internet. My name is Rabbi Aníbal Mas from Congregation Shaare Zedek, and it's my great honor to be here officiating the funeral service for Elizabeth Cohn. who was also known to the Jewish people by her Hebrew name, Ruth bat Abraham Besara, Zichronah Livracha, of blessed memory. She was the daughter of John and Anna Rueda, of blessed memory, the wife of the late Rudolf Cohn, of blessed memory, the mother of Ingrid Cohn, Arnold and Carla Cohn, and Herbert Cohn and Cara Halper, the grandmother of Lizzie and David, Sam, Daniel, Joy, Melanie and Tyler, the great-grandmother of Juliet and Victoria. Elizabeth passed away on Friday, March 18th, surrounded by family, at the age of 88. The Torah, in Numbers chapter 13 and 14, describes the famous story of the 12 spies. Moses sent 12 spies, one representative from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, to scout the promised land and to report on its terrain and its inhabitants. 40 days later, the spies returned, bringing samples of the land's huge and delicious fruit with the following assessment. We came to the land that you have sent us, and indeed, it flows with milk and honey. This is its fruit. However, the people who dwell in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very great. We also saw giants there. The Amalekites dwell in the Negev, the Hittites, the Jebusites, and the Amorites in the hills, and the Canaanites at the sea and on the banks of the Jordan. We cannot go up against these people, for they are mightier than we. Well, the report confirmed what people already believed and caused the nation to attempt to go back to Egypt. But two of the spies, Caleb ben Yefuneh and Yehoshua bin Nun, did not agree with them. They didn't say what people wanted to hear, but instead they dared to say that it was possible to enter to the promised land. Their different report was not popular, and the words were received with a cold attitude. I really feel bad for Caleb and Yehoshua. How much courage did it take for them to stand up and speak out their minds when everyone around them didn't want to hear what they had to say? It can be difficult when we find ourselves with a different point of view from that of a larger group. It takes a lot of strength to stand up for what you believe in, but it is important not to simply follow the trend. And the Torah continues by letting us know that the only two people from that generation who were blessed with a ticket to the promised land were Yehoshua and Caleb. Today we are saying goodbye to Elizabeth Cohn, a woman who, like Caleb and Yehoshua, always spoke her mind without hesitation. Or as she will say in Spanish, sin pelos en la lengua. And I won't even try to explain that. It makes no sense in Spanish, even less sense in English. But it means when you say what you want to say without any hesitation. That made Elizabeth genuine, with no phoniness, no pretending. In times where everybody is expected to be politically correct, she was not afraid to let everybody know her opinion. And I believe that Elizabeth's honesty and courage got her today a ticket to the ultimate promised land, to the Olam Haba, to the world to come. Elizabeth was overall a family person who liked big family gatherings with tons of food for everyone. I guess that's what you get when you mix a Latino madre with an Yiddish mame. Her giving personality found the ultimate recipient in her family. This makes sense. After all, the family are the people who accept us for who we are, who will do anything to see us smile, and who love us no matter what. The family is the one and only place where our life begins and love never ends. Elizabeth loved her family and appreciated every family member, especially her beloved Rudolph of blessed memory. And eulogies are a reminder that each of us leads a life of special interest and value, and that each of us is unique with our own special gifts. That's why I would like to start the process of eulogizing Elizabeth by the family who knew her best, by her family. So I would like to invite Arnold, Herbert, and Lizzie to come to the microphone.
Thank you everyone for coming today for this very sad day. As we celebrate my mom's life, there's a story of strength and perseverance to tell. Her life began from humble beginnings in Colombia's interior. Her childhood was marked with pain and sorrow, as she lost her two brothers before she turned 5, and her mother by the time she was 7 years old. Her father raised her until she turned 14, and then he died suddenly and she was left alone in the world. An aunt who lived in Barranquilla on the north coast of Colombia sent for her when she heard the news. Mom had never met this aunt before. Mom worked from that early age on in whatever job she could find. And one day while attending a party, she met Dad. They fell in love, and he became the love of her life. From that moment on, they were inseparable and became each other's strength and courage to tackle life together. They were an amazing duo and brought out the best in each other. You can't talk about my mom without talking about Dad. Dad was a Holocaust survivor. He had also suffered greatly in his childhood after losing most of his family in Germany, exterminated by the Nazis. I believe they shared a deep connection in each other's struggle, and they created a bond so strong that nothing or no one could ever break. Mom was a kind and sweet soul. She wore her heart on her sleeve. Her loyalty and devotion to family were always a priority. Dad founded 2 businesses and Mom took care of the kids. Mom made sure that we had everything we wanted and needed, while at the same time taking pride in caring for Dad. She was everyone's caretaker, and she was overzealous to make sure that Ingrid, Arnold, and I had every opportunity to succeed and get ahead in life. Her devotion to building a close and harmonious family was essential to her being. As our family slowly grew, her grandchildren and recently her 2 great-grandchildren brought continued joy to her life. She was so proud of her family. Mom was a visionary and an intuitive person. Everyone has by now heard the story of how Mom and Dad chose to leave the comforts of life in Colombia and take us to Canada to make sure us kids all had a better life. It was all Mom's idea, and that wasn't all. A woman's intuition told her early in my parents' relationship to encourage Dad to diversify their savings into a more stable and strong currency than the Colombian peso. She understood the economics of having assets backed by a strong currency, like the US dollar, while living in a country that experienced constant high inflation. That part was written by the accountant, just in case you didn't know. Although Dad was inherently risk-averse, Mom always encouraged and supported him to strive and take chances, especially in business. She believed in him and his abilities, and that gave him the courage to take calculated risks. Dad grew his small company into a firm of national reach in Colombia, and it was his baby until he left Colombia in 1982. The hard work allowed them to retire early in life, earlier than most, and be able to travel the world for over 30 years. Traveling was always on their wants list, and they took every opportunity to do so. They especially loved going to Europe almost every year and visit small towns where they felt the old Europe could still be felt. They also loved the beach. They enjoyed sitting by the ocean as they read their books for hours. We had the opportunity of traveling with them several times and enjoyed their happiness to have us experience travel with them.
Mom loved nature and was an avid gardener who loved all types of colorful flowers. She also loved animals. Growing up in Colombia, our house was at times some sort of petting zoo, with dogs, cats, birds, turtles, an iguana or two here and there, and even chickens. I only heard the stories, but one time she and Dad had a large spider monkey at home. Mom was one of the first to have poodle dog breeds in Colombia, and she would often compete in the best in show contests. She bred and also groomed her pedigree dogs, and before she knew it, she was sought after in the city, and now every poodle owner called my mom to groom their dogs. Mom created her own little business by accident and was successful at it. Mom's love language was cooking. She learned to cook German food for my dad, Spanish, Middle Eastern, and Jewish foods, and of course, Colombian foods. Her empanadas and salsa were finger-licking good. And after having some of her seafood casserole, you would end up having one of the best afternoon naps ever. I miss her cooking already. Speaking about her cooking and love of dogs, we can't go on also mentioning how she loved to feed us when we came home. One serving was unacceptable. The last few years, while living alone, she got a new dog who she treated as her child and applying the same eating rules as us kids. Her dog, Obi, essentially became a new Chihuahua breed that weighed upwards of 30 pounds and heavily panted after walking 100 meters. Her argument for overfeeding Obi was always, "What do you mean? He's looking at me. He must be hungry." It would be selfish of me not to acknowledge our sister Ingrid, who selflessly devoted so much of her time to take care of Mom since Dad's passing 10 years ago. The amount of effort she put in to make sure that Mom was happy and comfortable is admirable. Ingrid, you were an amazing daughter. Arnold and Carla also put in significant effort, while Kara and I provided emotional support from 450 miles away. We were blessed to have Mom's present to the ripe old age of 88. She fought her ailments with courage and poise. We were all astonished at the amount of strength and positive attitude she displayed, even in the toughest moments. Her doctors repeatedly stated that she had beat the odds a number of times, but eventually it was time to join Dad in heaven. Mom leaves her family with a huge void. It is also hard to think that from now on, Mom will live as a memory, as we no longer will be able to call her, say hello, or have dinner together. We take solace in the fact that our little Cinderella mom met her prince, grew her little family into a strong, cohesive bunch. She taught us how to love and cherish our spouse and children, and to never let anything or anybody get between us or our family. We will honor your memory, Mommy. Rest in peace next to the love of your life for eternity. We love you and miss you.
Thank you all for being here today. My abuelita and I were incredibly close my entire life. My abuelita was my best friend. We could talk about anything and everything. She knew how to make me feel special and loved. She was a beautiful woman, inside and out, so smart, kind, generous, and so very, very sassy. She could light up any room with her gorgeous smile and contagious laugh. We all benefited from Abuelita's love of cooking. She was hands down the best cook, and she loved watching us devour her delicious meals. I could talk for hours about my wonderful memories with my abuelita. She loved music. I will miss our little dance parties that we often had. She loved shopping. We used to go to the mall for hours on end and do fashion shows for my abuelito. She loved to travel. Abuelito and her traveled the world, and I was lucky enough to join them on a few trips. Abuelita was very social. She loved hosting big dinner parties with her dear friends. She was very fashionable. She always looked her very best, sporting high-heeled shoes until not too long ago. And although Abuelita looked fantastic, she had been dealing with health problems for years now. She was so strong, optimistic, and a true inspiration. Abuelita was so proud of her 3 children, 2 daughter-in-laws, 6 grandchildren, and 2 great-granddaughters. Her number one priority in life was her family. She would always say, "Familia es lo más importante." We are a close family, and Abuelita, I promise you that we will stay close, and we will always be there for one another. I learned what true love looks like, and what it takes to have a happy and successful marriage from my grandparents. They adored each other, and they were soulmates in every sense of the word. I'm comforted in knowing that they are together again. Que descanses en paz, mi abuelita linda. Te adoro.
Thank you all for such beautiful words, such wonderful tribute to the blessed memory of Elizabeth Cohn, Zichronha Livracha, of blessed memory. I'm going to continue now with the memorial prayer. Voy a continuar ahora con el Malé Rahamim, que es la plegaria en la cual le pedimos al Todopoderoso que acepte la memoria de Elizabeth en el paraíso. El Malé Rahamim Shochem Bameroimim Hametze Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah V'ma'alot Kedoshim Kedoshim Uteorim Kezoyar Rakim Amazirim Eden Ishemat Eden Ishemat Ruth Bat Avraham Vesara She'alecha Leolama Ba'avur Shanu Mitpalelim V'adat Karat Nishemata Began Etein Began Eden Tei Menuchata Lachem Bala Rachamim Ya Astir Eya Vesederkena Avavle Olamim Utzeror Bitznorachayim Achayim et Nishemata Adonai Unachalata ותנוח ושלום על משכבם ונאמר Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Elizabeth Cohn, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. Let us all say, Amén. Dios, lleno de compasión que moras en lo alto, concede auténtico descanso bajo las alas de tu presencia. En las excelsas esferas de santidad y pureza que brillan como el resplandor del firmamento, al alma de Elizabeth Cohn, que ha partido a su mundo superno. Que su lugar de descanso sea el jardín del Edén. Por ello, que el todo misericordioso la cobije con su divina presencia por siempre y ligue su alma en el vínculo de la vida. El Señor es su patrimonio, que descanse en su lugar de reposo en paz. Y digamos, Amén. Please join me now in the recitation of the words of comfort, the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Continuaremos ahora recitando el Kaddish de duelo. Itgadal ve'itgadash mei rabah, be'almad divedah hirutei ve'yamlich malchutei, bechayechon uvyomechon ubechayei dechol Beit Israel, ba'agala ubizman kari ve'imru, Amen. Yehe shemer rabah mevorach le'alam ule'olmei olmaya, yirbarach ve'ishtavach ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמידם בעלמה וימרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן. עושה שלום עם ברומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן. המקום ינחם אתכם בתוך של אבלי ציון בירושלים. May God bless you and comfort you. And let us all say Amen. We have one more thing to do here, and that is to participate on the burial process, which is to cover the coffin with a little bit of dirt, with the ground. Everybody's going to be invited to do that. But before we proceed to that stage that is going to happen here at the cemetery, let me share with you a few announcements. First, I would like to announce that the Shiva is going to be observed at 311 Bauer Boulevard, and it's going to be tonight at 7 p.m. Also, the family would like to extend special thank you to Dr. Quesada for the excellent care and friendship. Donations on Elizabeth's memory could be made to the kidney program at St. Boniface Hospital or to the Humane Society. Donaciones a la bendita memoria de Elizabeth se podrían realizar al programa del riñón de St. Boniface Hospital en Winnipeg o a la Humane Society. And now I would like to invite immediate family first to take a shovel, to put some earth on top of the coffin, and then after that everybody is invited to come forward and to participate. According to the rabbis, the act of covering the coffin with earth is an act of loving kindness, an act of chesed, and everybody is invited to honor one more time Elizabeth performing this important act of kindness. Thank you everyone for coming out. Thank you all of you for tuning in. Muchas gracias por sintonizarnos esta tarde.